We had a big sell-off today. Today is Thursday, February 3, 2022. This is a daily chart of the S&P 500. We gapped down, quick bounce, and sold off, trended lower for the rest of the day. The gap, the bounce, it happened within the first 2 hours of trading. After that, it just trended lower for the rest of the session. Now is below all these moving averages and above these moving averages also. So it's right between strong support and strong resistance. So I don't really see an edge either for the long side or the short side. I don't mind the volatility, but now this big sell off, today's sell off, makes this pattern tricky. I'll say between here and here will be very tricky. I can even say up here also. So anything in between could be very tricky. So I'm not really interested anything in here unless of course a nice setup develops. But like I said, it will be very choppy. If for instance tomorrow, let me just clear it. If tomorrow we end up, gapping higher, I don't think it's gonna go above this high, and the chart's still not gonna look all that great. If for some reason we end up going lower, I don't really see a good setup for shorting. So for the next few sessions, I think it needs a few more sessions to develop a pattern where I can trade. Like I said, it's in the middle of all these moving averages, so it could be very choppy, and I'll just watch it for now. The NASDAQ 100, this one had the biggest sell-off, down 638 points or negative 0.422%. It was pushing above all these moving averages, the 20 and the 200, and gapped down, quickly sold off. Not very quickly, but it was a very controlled sell off. Pretty much trended lower all day long. And it ended up closing below these short term moving averages. So the path of this resistance, believe it or not, based on this chart, I think it's still down. If for some reason we gap up tomorrow, I see lots of very strong resistance up here, levels of resistance. So you see all the dashed lines, moving averages. If we gap lower, I think it's going to be makes it even more difficult for it to recover. I can see very choppy trading between here and here. Anything above here would have the potential to go higher. Anything below here could be a good short. But of course, these are moving averages, so they're dynamic, they're moving, so the setup might change. I'm just talking about as of today. Have the jobs numbers tomorrow, so definitely that will move the market. Futures were higher today, but with the jobs numbers tomorrow, everything can change. Can open a lot higher or can even open lower. So one of the reasons why I do not trade the day before jobs report, just a gamble, either a big gap up or a big gap down. Hardly ever opens flattish. Now for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, as expected, after the big move higher, very difficult that it could consolidate above all these moving averages. So a pullback or a retracement was the most likely scenario, and in this case, that's what happened today. Big sell-off also. I wouldn't say that big sell-off. Yes, relatively speaking, yes, down 518 points, but it dipped below these moving averages, but still above the 200-day moving average. So it's between all these moving averages. So it can quickly tomorrow we gap higher. He can easily push above this level, the previous sessions are high. I mean, if we open lower, unless we open all the way down here, but I can still see some strong support around these moving averages. So this one looks very strong. Now the Philly Semiconductor Index, very similar sell-off to the NASDAQ 100. This one was down also big, negative 4.6%. Back to support. Short-term moving averages and the 200-day moving average couldn't push above these moving averages up here. So anything in between here, I'll say is going to be very choppy. Really, when it can get interesting is once we start pushing above these moving averages or we've dipped below these moving averages, either short or long. But I don't really see much potential around here unless we start trading, for a while and this becomes a very, how can I say, defined or obvious range. Other than that, I'm not interested in trading anything in between. Small caps, Russell 2000 IWM ETF. This one continues to be the weakest of all. This one on this bounce was not even able to reach any of these longer term moving averages. This is a 20. All the other indices were at least able to touch it or push above it. And now this one is actually close below these short-term moving averages, the 10 and the 5. So that looks very bearish to me. Continues to be very weak. It is trading in this trading range. So anything in between here could be very choppy. Once it pushes above that, and will be pushing above that moving average, the 20, then I think it would be reasonable to assume that it can push much higher. Dips below here, and of course, that could be a good short. Okay, but let's play a session by session. Let the setups develop. If there's no setup, there's no trade for me. Good luck trading tomorrow, and thanks for stopping by.